All right, welcome back to the channel. So, man, we got some shocking stuff going on in the welterweight division. Errol Spence Jr. may very well be ordered to face Jarron Ennis next. Or there's a chance, smaller chance, that it may be Virgil Ortiz. Either way, young guns coming up, old guard getting challenged. Let's talk about why that happened and what we should expect in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Before I get into the video, make sure you go down and check in the description box for my business betting partner, busr.com/Fanon, where you can get really great values for your gambling dollar. Make sure you go check that out. In this video, we're going to talk about the welterweight division, and we're going to talk about some developments that took place this weekend. Kurtadillo Abukarov, probably one of the last times I'll ever have to pronounce that name, lost to Cody Crowley on the undercard of the Nonito Donaire fight on Showtime, and that has ripple waves throughout the welterweight division as Abukarov was the mandatory challenger for Errol Spence Jr. for his IBF belt. This means that the IBF will be naming a new mandatory, and if you look at the IBF rankings, you will see that the two highest ranked people right now currently that have not lost are at number 3, Jarron Ennis, and at number 4, Virgil Ortiz. The number 1 was Abukarov, number 2 was vacant because at number 2 had been Sean Porter, but Sean Porter lost to Terrence Crawford, so he was removed, and he retired, so he was moved from the IBF rankings. Now, interestingly enough, I bet you Sean Porter is now wishing that he may not have retired, because even if he lost to Terrence Crawford, there was a chance he could have kept his number 2 rating. You never know the way some of these sanctioned bodies work, but he's retired, so he's out of the ranking. And the number 3 and the 4 guys are the two young contenders. I won't call them prospects. Young contenders, Jarron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz. So what are the likelihood of these guys fighting Errol Spence Jr.? And I got to tell you, it's very, very high, because number 1, they are in a position to be named the mandatory. So that means that the IBF, will order Errol Spence Jr. to fight one of them. And if Errol Spence Jr. does not fight them, Errol Spence Jr. will get stripped. And I promise you, the IBF does not play around. When the IBF had ordered Canelo Alvarez to fight Sergey Deverenchenko, and Canelo Alvarez did not fight Sergey Deverenchenko within the time limit that they had allotted, they stripped Canelo Alvarez. So the IBF probably has the best reputation of any sanctioning body right now as far as being fair and living by their own, being very consistent and fair in the application of their rules. So just the simple fact that it's the IBF tells you that, if they order the fight, that more than likely they're going to enforce it. Also, there's another issue that would tell you that they will, which is that the IBF mandatory for Errol Spence Jr. has not been satisfied since the year 2018. So that means that, it's going on 3 years since there was a mandatory title defense of the IBF, which means it's right around the corner. Abukarov, before he lost to Cody, before he lost this weekend, was insistent that he was going to be the next guy. Now, Errol Spence Jr. there is a saying in boxing, which is that that a unification trumps a mandatory, right? So Errol Spence Jr. was going to unify with Yordenis Ugas, but that didn't work out because the WBA ordered Ugas to fight Stanosis, and after that to fight Butiev. So that went out the window with their WBA kind of mini tournament they have trying to consolidate their belts. But then there's also the WBO. There's also the WBO fight with a unification fight with Terrence Crawford, and I guess he could do that as well. But I'm not sure if those guys are really willing to do that right now, especially because of the money that Terrence Crawford is asking for that fight. But so it looks like the IBF will be coming up next. The only question would be whether or not Errol Spence Jr. would be allowed to fight, a third party because of the amount of time that he's had off and coming off his retina injury. There is a chance that the IBF could make an exception for that and let him have one fight and then go into the IBF mandatory. But either way, any way it goes, that IBF mandatory is going to be coming due very, very soon. And they have not released the new rankings, right? So there's a chance that somebody other than Jarron Ennis or other than Virgil Ortiz may vault to the #1 in the IBF. Could be Cody Crowley, the guy that beat Abukarev, but he's not in there. When I looked at their rankings, he wasn't in their rankings at all. So the idea that he would go, because he beat Abukarev, that he would vault to the #1 in that weight division, I don't see that. I don't necessarily see that happening, because that would only happen if they had been fighting in a title eliminator. Now that's the other thing that could possibly happen next with the IBF, is because they have a #3 and a #4 and they didn't have a #1 or #2, that they could actually order a title eliminator between Jarron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz to become the mandatory. And if they did that, man, I'm telling you, that would be absolutely, I would like that. I personally, this is me personally, would probably like that more for those two dudes' career than them going straight to Errol Spence. Because when we talk about what's actually going to happen in the fight, man, I think Jarron Ennis definitely has a chance to win. I would put Jarron Ennis as a live underdog for that fight, and and when I say a live underdog, I mean 52-48 for Errol Spence Jr. Something because I think very, very highly of Jarron Ennis and Jarron Ennis's ability. The only question for me is that is a big, big jump in the competition level between what he's fought with Sergey Lipinets and God, what's his name? Man, the same guy that Errol Spence Jr. beat, the Southpaw fighter, man. Please forgive me for forgetting his name off the top of my head. But, with Sergey Lipinets and then Thomas Delorme, right? It's a big jump up from Thomas Delorme and those guys. And I would like to see Jarron Ennis maybe in there with somebody and get some good long rounds in with somebody and have a fight that would, could push him. But with Jarron Ennis, honestly, man, it may be very, very difficult to find that from anybody that's not Errol Spence or not Terrence Crawford. The dude is just absolutely positively a superb fighter. Virgil Ortiz, I'm sure that Golden Boy would be pushing to get Virgil Ortiz to be the mandatory. That would probably be the bigger fight between the two of them. That would be Virgil Ortiz and Errol Spence Jr. in Dallas Stadium, because they're both from the same area, both from the same neighborhood. So that would probably be the bigger money fight if that's what the IBF was into. If this was the WBO would probably order the bigger money fight. Or the WBC, they would probably order the bigger money fight. But the IBF tends to be very fair, so I can't really say which way they're going to go on that. But either way, man, we're going to see Errol Spence Jr. in some good fights pretty soon, either against Terrence Crawford, against the IBF mandatory, whether it be Jarron Ennis or Virgil Ortiz, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. The only thing that I would hope, Errol Spence Jr., somebody's like, look, man, I don't need tune-ups. I go straight to my fights, and he feels strong and capable of doing it. But I would like to see him in the ring after that eye injury and this long layoff, against somebody, right, where he can kind of shake the rust off. But we'll see what happens. You let me know what you think is going to happen or what your opinion is in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.